4 months from now, Terry Calloway would stand in the butterfly exhibit at Piedmont Botanical Gardens, watching his daughter Amara chase monarchs through blooms he could not yet afford to dream about. Elena Ashford would be beside him, auburn hair, catching the afternoon light, lifting Mara so she could see the wings up close. They would look like a family. They would feel like one. But on this Tuesday morning in early May, Terry had no idea any of that waited on the other side of a door he was about to open by mistake. The stack of quarterly reports rose high enough to block his view of the hallway. His phone read 8:56 a.m. Conference room 4B sat somewhere ahead past the water cooler and the executive suite C he had never entered in 3 years of working at Ashford Technologies. 4 minutes to deadline. His manager Sarah had been explicit during yesterday's 4:47 p.m. email. These reports needed to reach the finance team by 9 o'clock sharp for the board presentation. No extensions. No excuses. Terry's apartment that morning had looked the way it always did. Small, clean, organized with the precision of a man who understood that chaos in a black household gets judged differently than chaos in a white one. Bills on the kitchen counter, rent $820 due in 5 days, electricity, $94 water, and $41, Mara's field trip permission slip with a yellow highlight over the $35 fee. His phone's banking app had shown $58.47 when he checked it while brushing his teeth. $58. 5 days until rent. A promotion that kept not happening despite 3 proposals he had submitted over 2 years, each one vanishing into the corporate ether without acknowledgement. Mara had been drawing at the kitchen table, her gap-toothed smile visible even in concentration. 7 years old, second grade, obsessed with butterflies the way some kids obsessed over dinosaurs or princesses. Her latest artwork showed a house with a garden, 2 figures standing in front, monarchs and swallowtails filling the sky in crayon strokes that made Terry's chest hurt with how much he wanted to give her that vision. When you get promoted, Daddy, can we live in a house with a garden for butterflies? Maybe, sweetheart. Daddy's working on something special. The something special was real. An algorithm he had designed during lunch breaks and late nights after Mara fell asleep. Machine learning optimization for data processing workflows. 7 weeks ago, he had submitted it through the company suggestion portal packaging. Months of work into a 12-page proposal that Sarah had glanced at and said looked interesting before she returned to her actual priorities. He expected nothing. Expected had become his default setting. 3 years in data processing. 3 years of arriving 45 minutes early and leaving after everyone else. 3 years of being the only black employee in a department of 15, watching colleagues get promoted for work he had helped them complete. The photograph on his living room shelf showed Sarah Calloway holding baby Mara, both of them laughing at something off camera. 4 years dead. Aneurysm. No warning. Just there one morning, making coffee, and gone by afternoon, collapsed in the grocery store parking lot while Mara slept in her car seat. Terry had been 24 hours into a work trip when his mother, Evelyn, called. He remembered the airport terminal, the fluorescent lights, the way his knees had simply stopped working. He did not think about Sarah much anymore. Not in the sharp way. The pain had worn smooth over 4 years, settled into his bones like old weather. But Mara asked questions sometimes, usually at night, usually when Terry was tucking her in and she was fighting sleep the way 7-year-olds do. Does Mommy watch us from heaven? Yeah, baby, she watches. She's proud of you. Is she proud of you too? I hope so, sweetheart. I'm trying to make her proud. The hallway at Ashford Technologies stretched ahead with its bland corporate aesthetic. Beige walls, motivational posters about teamwork and innovation. The security guard at the front desk that morning had stopped Terry the same way he always did, asking to see his badge despite it hanging visibly around his neck. The guard never stopped the white employees, never asked them to confirm they belonged in the building they entered every single day. Terry had smiled and held up his badge and said good morning because what else could he do? File a complaint, document the microaggression, add it to the mental list he kept of all the ways this place reminded him he was not quite welcome. His cubicle that morning had contained a note under his keyboard. Anonymous. Printed. No signature. Affirmative action doesn't mean you belong here. He had crumpled it and dropped it into his bottom desk drawer, where 6 others lived collected over 8 months. Each one slightly different. Each one carrying the same essential message. Terry kept them because some instinct told him documentation mattered. Evidence mattered. Even if he never planned to use it, having proof felt important in a way he could not articulate. Jamal had leaned over the cubicle partition around 7:30, voice low. Calloway VP Kendrick was asking about our department yesterday. Sounded off. Off how? Just the tone. like he was looking for problems. Be careful. Bryce Kendrick, VP of Operations, mid-40s. The kind of man who wore expensive suits and spoke in coded language that sounded professional on the surface but carried implications if you listened carefully. He had walked past Terry's desk last week and paused just long enough to make eye contact. Calloway, you're here early. Making sure everything's correct. The emphasis on correct had been slight, almost missable, but Terry had learned to hear the music beneath the words. Making sure everything's correct meant, are you sure you can handle this job? It meant we're watching you. It meant one mistake, and we'll have the justification we've been waiting for. Conference room 4B should have been the third door on the left. Terry had walked this hallway before, though never with this much urgency. His phone showed 8:57 a.m. 3 minutes. The reports felt heavier than they should. He shifted them in his arms, double-checking the labels, making sure they were sequenced correctly, because showing up with disorganized materials would be another mark against him. The email notification had come through at 8:14 a.m., buried under 17 other messages in his inbox. Subject line, updated meeting location. But Terry had been deep in debugging code, trying to solve a processing bottleneck before the morning deadline, and he had not seen it, had not registered the change from conference room 4B to executive suite C. He grabbed the handle of what he thought was 4B. The door was not locked. It swung open smoothly on hinges that did not squeak. Elena Ashford stood in the center of the room, silk blouse half-buttoned, fingers frozen mid-motion on the fabric. Her eyes met his, blue and sharp and assessing in a way that made time slow down until he could count his own heartbeats. The CEO of Ashford Technologies, pale skin, auburn hair pulled back. The woman whose signature appeared on quarterly announcements. The woman whose father had built this company 32 years ago and whose inheritance 3 years ago had made her the youngest CEO in the firm's history. Standing there, half-dressed, staring at him, Terry's brain processed the scene in fragments. Expensive furniture, floor-to-ceiling windows showing the Atlanta skyline. The woman who controlled his paycheck. The woman who could end his career with a phone call. The absolute worst person he could have possibly walked in on. His hands went slack. The quarterly reports cascaded to the polished hardwood floor, 23 individual folders, splaying open in a waterfall of white paper. Pages scattered. Data points mixing. The sound impossibly loud in the silence. The apology came out, automatic words tripping over themselves. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. Conference 4B. I thought this was 4B. I'm sorry. Elena Ashford said nothing, just stood there watching him with an expression he could not read. Not angry, not scared. Something else. Something that felt like she was measuring him against some internal standard he did not know existed. Terry did not wait for a response. He fled, left the reports where they had fallen, left the door open, fled down the hallway with his heart hammering against his ribs because his brain had already started calculating consequences. Black man, white woman, CEO, alone, bomb, half-dressed. This is how careers end. This is how lives end. He found the stairwell instead of the elevator because the stairwell meant no witnesses, no colleagues asking why he looked like he had seen a ghost, no casual conversations he would have to navigate while his nervous system vibrated at frequencies that made his hands shake. 4 floors down, concrete and fluorescent lights. The echo of his breathing too loud. He sat on the steps between the 3rd and 4th floors and tried to make his lungs work properly. The math was simple. The math was always simple when you were a black man in corporate America. One mistake metastasizes. One accident becomes harassment. One moment of being in the wrong place at the wrong time becomes the story that follows you forever. She was half-dressed. You walked in on her. Half-dressed, alone. Does not matter that it was an accident. Does not matter that you apologized. Does not matter that you left immediately. Black man, white woman, alone, half-dressed. The equation wrote itself. The verdict already decided before any investigation could happen. His phone buzzed. Text from his mother, Evelyn. Baby, can you pick up Mara today? And I've got a doctor's appointment. Terry's fingers felt numb as he typed back. Yeah, Ma, I got it. 3 Harrow pickup. Another buzz. Different contact. Sarah, his manager. Where are you? Finance needs those reports. Terry stared at the screen. The reports were on Elena Ashford's floor, scattered across her office. He could not go back for them, could not walk back into that room, could not face her. Had emergency. Reports are compiled on my desk. Someone else can deliver. He sent it before he could second-guess the lie. Then he sat in the stairwell for another 17 minutes trying to convince himself to go back to his cubicle and act normal. Normal. As if any part of this could be normal. The data processing department at 9:30 a.m. looked exactly like it always did. Fluorescent lights humming, keyboards clicking, the ambient noise of people doing work they found mostly boring but adequately compensated. Terry slid into his chair and opened his email and pretended everything was fine. Jamal glanced over the partition. "You good? You look rough. Didn't sleep well. Mara had nightmares. The lie came easy, easier than the truth." By 10:15, the whispers started. Two women in the break room, voices carrying just far enough. "Did you hear someone walked in on Ashford while she was changing?" "No, who don't know yet. Security's looking into it." Terry stood by the coffee machine, frozen. They did not see him, did not register his presence. He poured coffee he did not want and left before they could turn around. The afternoon stretched like taffy. Every email notification made his stomach drop. Every footstep in the hallway could be security coming to escort him out. Every moment contained the possibility of total collapse. At 2:47 p.m., his phone rang. Unknown number. He let it go to voicemail, listened to the message with his office door closed. "Mr. Calloway, this is Simone Garrett from Human Resources. We need to speak with you regarding an incident this morning. Please come to HR at your earliest convenience." "Thank you." Her voice was professionally neutral, revealing nothing, but HR did not call for good reasons. HR called when something needed to be documented, when liability needed to be managed, when someone needed to be terminated. Terry walked to the HR department at 3:02 p.m. He had picked up Mara, first settling her with his mother, because he did not know if he would still have a job by dinner time and he needed her somewhere safe while the world potentially ended. Simone Garrett's office was small and windowless. Motivational posters about workplace harmony, a desk with organized files. Simone herself was 48, white, with the carefully maintained appearance of someone who took corporate dress codes seriously. She gestured to the chair across from her desk. Terry sat. "Mr. Calloway, thank you for coming. We need to discuss this morning. It was an accident. I was looking for conference room 4B. The email about the location change, I didn't see it until after. I walked into the wrong room. I apologized immediately and left." Simone made notes on a legal pad, her handwriting precise. "Miss Ashford has not filed a formal complaint. However, given the nature of the incident, we're documenting it for everyone's protection." Protection from what? Simone looked up. Pen pausing. "Misunderstandings, misinterpretations. You walked in on the CEO in a state of undress. That creates potential concerns about workplace conduct. I left immediately. I apologized. I didn't touch anything, didn't say anything inappropriate. Just apologized and left." "I understand, Mr. Calloway, and we appreciate your cooperation. This is simply documentation. Standard procedure, standard procedure." The words meant nothing and everything, meant this goes in your file, meant if anything else happens, we already have a record, meant you're being watched now. Terry left HR at 3:34 p.m., walked back to his desk, sent one email to Sarah saying he was taking a sick day tomorrow. Then he left the building 45 minutes early for the first time in 3 years. Mara was drawing at Evelyn's kitchen table when Terry arrived. Butterflies again. Always butterflies. She looked up with that gap-toothed smile that made everything else dissolve for a moment. Did a look. "I drew a painted lady." "That's beautiful, baby. You ready to go home? Can we stop for ice cream?" "Not today, sweetheart. Daddy's tired." Evelyn caught his eye over Mara's head, raised an eyebrow. They would talk later after Mara fell asleep. They always did. Evelyn had raised Terry after his own parents proved unequal to the task. She knew when something was wrong, the way mothers do. That night, after spaghetti and homework and brushing teeth, after Mara was finally asleep with her stuffed butterfly clutched to her chest, Terry sat on the small balcony of his apartment and stared at the Atlanta skyline. His phone showed $58.47. Rent due in 4 days. If he got fired tomorrow, he had maybe 6 weeks of savings before the dominoes started falling. 6 weeks before he could not make rent, could not pay for Mara's school supplies, could not afford the groceries. The proposal he had submitted 7 weeks ago felt like a joke now, like evidence of how naive he had been to think merit mattered more than optics, to think a good idea could overcome the reality of who he was in this company, in this country. His phone buzzed. Unknown number again. He almost did not answer. "Hello, Mr. Calloway. This is Elena Ashford." His entire body went rigid. The CEO, calling his personal cell phone. At 9:47 p.m. "Ms. Ashford, I want to apologize again for this morning." "Stop. We're not discussing this morning. I'm calling about your proposal. Terry's brain stuttered, failed to process the sentence. My proposal. The data optimization algorithm you submitted 7 weeks ago. I read it last night. It's exceptional. Silence. The Atlanta skyline blurred. I review all flagged submissions personally. Yours was flagged as high impact by the Innovation Committee. They were right. Your machine learning approach could save this company approximately $2, $8 million annually. Terry could not speak, could not form words. I want to pilot it. 3-month trial, budget of $175,000. You'll lead a team of 4. I need an answer by Friday morning. Are you interested? The question hung in the air between them. The wrong door, the worst possible door. And now this. Why me? Elena Ashford's voice came through clear and firm. Because I don't hire credentials, Mr. Calloway. I hire innovation. And your proposal shows you see patterns other people miss. So, are you interested or not? Mara's drawing was still on the refrigerator. The house with the garden, the butterflies, maybe sweetheart. Daddy's working on something special. Yes, I'm interested. Good. We'll discuss details Monday morning. 9 a.m., my office. Ann, Mr. Calloway. About this morning, conference room reassignments should have been communicated better. My executive assistant made an error. You walked into a room you were assigned to. No complaint will be filed. HR's documentation will reflect that. Understood. Yes, ma'am. Good. See you Monday. She disconnected. Terry sat on the balcony holding his phone, the Atlanta lights spreading below him like a map of possibilities he had stopped letting himself imagine. Friday passed in a surreal haze. Colleagues who had been whispering on Tuesday now avoided eye contact entirely. Jamal leaned over the partition around lunch. Man, what happened? Heard you met with HR and now you're meeting with Ashford Monday. That's not normal. Got assigned a project. What kind of project? Terry shrugged, unwilling to jinx it by speaking it aloud. The weekend crawled. Saturday morning he took Mara to the park, watched her chase butterflies through the grass, while he sat on a bench trying to process what had happened, trying to understand how opening the wrong door had somehow led to the opportunity he had spent 2 years waiting for. Evelyn called Saturday evening. Baby, you want to tell me what's really going on? Got offered a big project at work. Leading it. Big budget. That's wonderful, Terry. So why do you sound like someone died? Because people are going to say I only got it because I walked in on the CEO. Because they're going to say she felt guilty or scared of a lawsuit or wanted to cover her tracks. Evelyn's voice came through firm. Do you care why she offered it? I care that the work is real, that the results will be real. Then prove it. Make it so undeniable nobody can question it. You spent your whole life proving yourself. Baby, this is just one more time. What if I can't? What if I fail and prove everyone right who said I didn't belong? Then you fail. But you fail trying. And Mara sees you trying. That's the lesson that matters. Monday morning, Terry arrived at 7:15 a.m., showered, shaved, wearing his best suit, the one he saved for interviews he never got. He had practiced what he would say, had rehearsed responses to questions he anticipated, had prepared himself for the possibility this was all some elaborate setup. Elena Ashford's office occupied the entire northeast corner of the 22nd floor, floor-to-ceiling windows, minimalist furniture, art that probably cost more than his annual salary. She stood at the window when he entered, turned to face him. Mr. Calloway, thank you for coming. Please sit. He sat. She remained standing for a moment, backlit by the morning sun. I'm going to be direct. Your algorithm is the most innovative proposal I've seen in 5 years. The Innovation Committee flagged it. I read it. I had our CTO review it. He agrees it's viable. She moved to her desk, slid a folder across to him. This is the pilot structure. 3 months, 4-person team reporting to you, $175,000 budget for implementation. Success metrics are clearly defined. External auditors will verify results. If it works, we scale it company-wide. Terry opened the folder, saw his own proposal printed and annotated, saw budget breakdowns, saw his name listed as project lead. Why external auditors? Elena's eyes met his and he saw something there he had not expected. Understanding, because people will question how you got this opportunity. They'll wonder if it's legitimate. External verification removes that doubt. She leaned back in her chair. I'm not naive, Mr. Calloway. I know what people are already saying. About Tuesday, about this project, about whether you earn this or if I'm making some kind of gesture. Terry said nothing. Here's what I know. You submitted 3 proposals in 2 years. All 3 were ignored despite having merit. This one was flagged because I implemented a new review system specifically to catch good ideas our middle management might dismiss. She pulled up something on her computer, turned the screen toward him. Your personnel file. 3 years. 0 disciplinary actions. Consistently high performance reviews. 2 letters of recommendation from colleagues. And absolutely no upward movement despite qualifications that exceed several people who were promoted over you. The screen showed his own career in bullet points. Stark evidence of going nowhere. So yes, Mr. Calloway, I'm offering you this opportunity. Not because of Tuesday, not because I feel guilty, but because you earned it 2 years ago and nobody bothered to notice. She closed the laptop. But I need you to be clear on what you're accepting. This will be scrutinized. Your work will be questioned. People will assume favoritism. You'll have to be perfect in a way your white colleagues won't. I've been perfect for 3 years. Hasn't made a difference. Then be perfect again. But this time make it undeniable. Terry looked at the folder, looked at his name, looked at the budget that could change everything. What happens if I fail? Elena's expression softened slightly. Then you fail. But you'll fail having tried something innovative rather than staying invisible in a cubicle for another decade. She stood, extended her hand. So, Terrence Calloway, are you interested in showing this company what you can do? He stood, shook her hand. Her grip was firm, professional, nothing more. Yes, ma'am, I am. Good. You start next Monday. My assistant will send the team roster and implementation timeline. Any questions? Just one. The external auditors. That was your idea. Yes. Why? Because I meant what I said. I'm not interested in gestures. I'm interested in results. And I want your results to be unquestionable. She walked him to the door, paused before opening it. Mr. Calloway, one more thing. Don't let other people's expectations limit what you can do. You're better than they want to believe. Prove it. The door opened. Terry walked out, walked past cubicles where people stared, walked to the elevator where Bryce Kendrick stood waiting. Calloway. Heard you got a big assignment? Yes, sir. Bryce's smile did not reach his eyes. Ambitious project. Hope you're ready. Some people only get one shot. Make sure you don't fumble it. The emphasis on one shot hung in the air. The implication clear. One chance. One mistake. One opportunity to prove everyone's doubts correct. The elevator doors closed. Terry rode down alone, the folder in his hands feeling heavier than it should. Heavier with possibility. Heavier with the weight of everyone watching. Waiting. Hoping to see him fall. But also lighter. Lighter than 3 years of invisibility. Lighter than proposals vanishing into nothing. Lighter than the slow suffocation of knowing you could do more, but never getting the chance to prove it. He thought of Mara, the gap-toothed smile, the butterfly drawings, the garden she dreamed about. Maybe, sweetheart, Daddy's working on something special. The elevator reached the ground floor. The doors opened. Terry stepped out into a morning that looked exactly like every other morning but felt completely different, because he had opened the wrong door, and somehow, impossibly, it had led him exactly where he needed to be. The email arrived at 6:47 a.m. on the first Monday of June. Subject line, in bold capitals, diversity hire gets $175K, project while qualified candidates ignored. Terry stared at his phone screen in the pre-dawn darkness of his bedroom, reading words that burned. The message had no signature. The distribution list showed half the data processing department. Someone had attached a screenshot timestamped from Tuesday morning, grainy but unmistakable. Terry and Elena exiting the same conference room, her blouse visible in the frame, his face turned away. The implication required no explanation. The narrative wrote itself. Black man walks in on white CEO changing clothes. 1 week later, black man gets massive project budget and team leadership. The math was simple for anyone who wanted it to be. Jamal's text came through at 7:02. Man, you see that email. Don't let it get to you. Your work will speak. Terry's fingers hovered over the keyboard, wanted to type something defiant, something that would cut through the poison. But what was there to say? Denying it made him look defensive. Ignoring it made him look guilty. Addressing it gave it oxygen. He deleted the half-formed response and got out of bed. Mara was still sleeping, her breathing soft and even from the room next door. Monday meant waffles. Monday meant getting her to school by 8:15. Monday meant normal routines even when nothing felt normal. The pilot project team met for the first time at 9:30 a.m. in conference room 7D, deliberately chosen because it was neutral territory. Small, windowless. 4 chairs around a table designed for 6. The team Elena's assistant had assembled consisted of Terry, plus three others. Marcus Webb, a white systems analyst in his 40s who looked perpetually skeptical. Keisha Armstrong, a black woman in her early 30s from the infrastructure team who radiated quiet competence. And David Yoon, a Korean-American developer fresh out of Georgia Tech who seemed nervous about everything. Terry had prepared a presentation, 15 slides outlining the algorithm, architecture, implementation phases, success metrics. He opened his laptop and connected to the projector, waiting for the screen to flicker to life. Marcus leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. So, help me understand something. Your data processing, right? Level 2 analyst Terry kept his voice level. Correct. And now you're leading a team with a budget bigger than most department operating costs. How exactly did that happen? The question carried weight beyond its words, carried the entire anonymous email, carried every assumption about how a black man in a low-level position suddenly got authority over people with more experience. Keisha cut in before Terry could respond. He submitted a proposal that got flagged as high impact. Innovation Committee reviewed it. CEO approved it. Same process available to everyone. You ever submit anything? Marcus's jaw tightened. That's not the point. Then what is the point? The point is we all know what happened last Tuesday, and we all know what happened this Monday. And the timeline is convenient. Terry closed his laptop, looked Marcus directly in the eye. You're right, the timeline looks convenient. So here's what we're going to do. External auditors will verify every result. Every line of code will be documented and reviewed. Every decision will be transparent. And at the end of 3 months, the work will speak for itself. He stood. If you don't want to be part of this team, I understand. No hard feelings. But if you stay, I expect professionalism and full effort. Those are the only two options. Marcus held his stare for a long moment, then nodded once sharp and minimal. Fine. Let's see the algorithm. Terry reopened his laptop, began the presentation. Watched Marcus take notes with the precision of someone looking for flaws. Watched Keisha nod at key points, already understanding the elegance of the approach. Watched David's nervousness transform into excitement as the technical implications became clear. By 11:00 a.m., they had a timeline. By noon, they had role assignments. By 1:00 p.m., Terry had sent the first status report to Elena's assistant, documenting everything they had decided and why. The anonymous email was still circulating by the afternoon. Terry saw people reading it when he walked past their desks, saw the way conversations stopped when he entered the break room, felt the weight of judgment that had nothing to do with his technical skills and everything to do with proximity to power he was not supposed to have. Bryce Kendrick appeared at Terry's cubicle at 4:17 p.m., standing in that way executives do when they want you to know they're important and you're interrupting their valuable time by existing. Calloway. Got a minute? Terry saved his work and stood. Of course, Bryce glanced at the empty cubicles nearby, satisfied they were alone. Wanted to check in, see how your first day went. Productive. Team is aligned. We're on schedule. Good. That's good. Just remember this project is visible. Board level, a lot of people watching. Any complications could reflect poorly. The word complications hung there like smoke. What kind of complications? Bryce smiled cold and professional. Oh, optics, perceptions, important to maintain professional boundaries, especially given how the opportunity arose. Terry felt his shoulders tighten, but kept his voice neutral. The opportunity arose through the normal proposal review process. Right, of course. Just saying be careful about how things look. A man in your position getting this kind of attention from Ms. Ashford, people wonder. Natural human curiosity. A man in your position. The phrase was a weapon wrapped in politeness. Meant black, meant lower tier, meant you don't belong here and we're watching for you to prove it. I appreciate the advice. Bryce nodded, already turning away. Just looking out for you, Calloway. Hate to see someone fumble a good opportunity over something preventable. He walked off. Terry sat back down, opened his email, stared at code that suddenly felt harder to focus on because his mind kept circling back to fumble and complications in a man in your position. His phone buzzed at 1:47 p.m. the following Thursday. Westside Elementary. Terry's stomach dropped before he even answered. Mr. Calloway, this is Principal Stevens. There's been a change to our schedule today. Early dismissal at 1:00 due to a facilities issue. Is someone available to pick up Amara? Terry pulled up his email, scanning frantically. The notification was there, sent at 11:23 a.m., 2 hours ago, buried under 47 other messages about the project. I'll be there as soon as possible. He grabbed his jacket, started toward the elevator, His mother, Evelyn, was at a cardiology appointment, something she had mentioned last Sunday over dinner. Unreachable. Terry had no backup plan, no neighbor he trusted, no friend close enough to call with 30 minutes notice. The elevator doors opened. Elena Ashford stepped out, nearly colliding with him. Terry, going somewhere, her use of his first name still felt strange. Too familiar. Too casual for the CEO addressing an employee she had known for 2 weeks. Family emergency. My daughter's school. I have to go. What happened? Early dismissal. Facilities issue. She's waiting and I missed the notification, and my mother's at a doctor's appointment and I have to get there, but it's 50 minutes by bus and she's alone and she's 7, and the words poured out before he could stop them, before he could remember professional boundaries and appropriate workplace conduct. Elena's expression shifted into something decisive. Where's the school? Westside Elementary. But I can manage. I'll just... My car. Now, the firmness in her voice left no room for argument. Terry followed her to the executive parking garage, his brain struggling to process what was happening. The CEO of the company was driving him to pick up his daughter. The CEO he had walked in on 2 weeks ago. The CEO who had just given him a $175,000 project. The CEO whose attention was already causing whispers in anonymous emails. Elena's Tesla was black and silent and smelled like leather and something floral he could not identify. She pulled out of the garage with the efficiency of someone who knew exactly where she was going despite having never been there before. GPS says 32 minutes with current traffic. Terry's hands were shaking. He clasped them together to make them stop. You didn't have to do this, I know. The silence stretched. Atlanta traffic crawled past the windows. Terry watched the navigation countdown. 29 minutes. 26. 23. Elena broke the quiet. How old is Amara? 7. Second grade. That's young to be alone. I know, I messed up. Should have checked email more carefully. Should have had a backup plan. Should have. Stop. It happens. Facilities emergencies don't send advance warning. Her tone was matter of fact, not judgmental. Terry felt something in his chest unclench slightly. How long since her mother passed? 4 years. Aneurysm. Very sudden. Elena's hands tightened on the steering wheel, barely perceptible. I'm sorry. That must have been devastating. It was, still is some days. They drove in silence for another mile. Then Elena spoke again, quieter this time. My mother died when I was 8. Car accident. I remember the fear more than the grief. Fear that my father would disappear too. That I'd be completely alone. Terry looked at her, saw something in her profile he had not expected. Vulnerability, shared understanding. Did it get easier eventually? But the fear doesn't entirely leave. It just becomes something you learn to live with. The GPS announced 17 minutes. Terry watched the building slide past and tried not to calculate how many people might see Elena's car at Mara's school. How many might recognize the CEO? How that would look? What new assumptions would bloom? They arrived at 2:33 p.m. Mara sat on a bench just inside the main entrance, her small backpack clutched against her chest. Her braids were coming loose. Her eyes were red from crying. When she saw Terry through the glass doors, she ran and he caught her, and she buried her face in his shirt. I was scared. I thought something happened to you. I'm here, baby. I'm always coming for you, always. Mara pulled back, noticed Elena standing a few feet away. Who's that? Terry straightened, keeping one hand on Mara's shoulder. This is Ms. Ashford. She works with Daddy. She gave me a ride so I could get here faster. Mara studied Elena with the unfiltered directness of childhood. Elena crouched down to her level, and Terry saw her smile genuine and warm in a way he had never seen in the office. Hi, Amara. Your dad talks about you a lot. He does all the time. Says you love butterflies. Mara's face brightened despite the tear tracks still visible on her cheeks. Butterflies are my favorite. Do you like butterflies? I do. Though I don't know as much about them as I should. Mara's shyness evaporated the way it always did when someone showed interest in her obsession. I can teach you. I have a whole book about them. And I'm going to the butterfly exhibit on a field trip soon. Well, if Daddy can afford the permission slip, it's $35. She said it without judgment, without understanding the weight those words carried. Elena's eyes flicked to Terry's face for a fraction of a second, then back to Mara. That sounds like a wonderful field trip. I hope you get to go. In the car on the drive back, Mara sat in the back seat and talked nonstop. About school, about her teacher, Mrs. Chen, about her best friend, Destiny, who had a butterfly hair clip, about the drawing she had made in art class. She unzipped her backpack without being asked, pulling out a piece of construction paper covered in crayon marks. Look, I made this today. She held it up. The drawing showed a house with a garden, two figures standing in front. But now there was a third figure, smaller and less defined, standing slightly apart. Butterflies filled the sky in orange and black strokes. That's me and Daddy. And that's, well, I didn't finish her yet, but she's important. Who is she, sweetheart? Mara looked at Elena in the rearview mirror. I don't know yet, but Daddy says sometimes the right people show up when you need them. Terry's throat tightened. Elena's eyes met his in the mirror, holding for a moment before returning to the road. They dropped Mara and Terry at their apartment building at 3:41 p.m. Mara hugged Elena before getting out, quick and impulsive and completely natural. Thank you for bringing my daddy. You're very welcome, Amara. After Mara ran ahead to the building entrance, Elena lowered her window. Terry leaned down. Thank you. I mean it. You didn't have to do any of this, I know. But she shouldn't have had to wait alone. She started to raise the window, then paused. Terry, the field trip, the $35. If that's difficult to manage, the company has an employee assistance fund. Heat flooded Terry's face. Shame and pride warring. We're fine. But thank you, Elena nodded, understanding what he could not say. That accepting help felt like admitting defeat. That $35 should not be difficult, but was. That every dollar counted when you had 58 or 50 in the bank and rent due in 3 days. Okay, but the offer stands. She drove away. Terry stood on the sidewalk, watching her car disappear around the corner, knowing with absolute certainty that this moment would become another data point, another piece of evidence that people would use to explain his opportunity as something other than earned. The second anonymous email arrived Friday morning. No subject line, just a photo attachment. Elena's Tesla outside Westside Elementary. Timestamp visible. Caption, how far will some people go to secure their position? Terry deleted it, then checked his trash folder and deleted it again, then cleared his trash so no evidence remained on his computer. But the image was already lodged in his brain, already spreading through the company network, already becoming part of a narrative he could not control. Keisha found him in the break room at lunch. Saw the email. That's some bullshit. Terry poured coffee he did not want. Doesn't matter. The hell it doesn't. They're trying to discredit you before you even finish the project. Let them. Results speak louder than rumors. Keisha leaned against the counter, arms crossed. You know what I realized? In 3 years here, I've watched 6 white guys get promoted for mediocre work. But you have to be 3 times better and still prove you didn't cheat somehow. That's how it works. Doesn't mean it's right. Terry met her eyes. Right doesn't pay rent. Results do. So I'm focusing on results. The project consumed the next 4 weeks. Terry worked 70-hour weeks, code flowing through his screens in endless streams of logic and optimization. The algorithm was elegant in theory, but brutal in implementation. Every edge case revealed 3 more. Every optimization created new bottlenecks. By late June, they were running 14% efficiency gains, respectable, but short of the 25% target. Marcus had become grudgingly professional, still skeptical, still watching for mistakes. But he showed up on time and did his work and occasionally offered suggestions that improved the code. David was brilliant at implementation, but needed constant reassurance. Keisha was the steady center, the one who kept everyone focused when frustration mounted. Elena appeared at Terry's desk twice a week, ostensibly to check on project status, but often staying longer than necessary, asking questions that went beyond the technical, about Mara, about how he was managing the workload, about whether he needed additional resources. Each visit generated new whispers. Each conversation became evidence of favoritism. Each moment of professional courtesy transformed into something suspicious. The HR summons came on the last Tuesday of July. Simone Garrett's office again. Same neutral expression, same legal pad for notes. Calloway, thank you for coming. We've received multiple reports of an inappropriate relationship between you and Ms. Ashford. Terry kept his breathing steady. Define inappropriate. Personal interactions outside of work. Time spent together beyond professional necessity. A perception of favoritism affecting workplace dynamics. She gave me one ride. Once. To pick up my daughter during a family emergency. That's the extent of our personal interaction. Simone wrote something on her pad, and the dinner Terry's mind went blank. What dinner you were seen entering your apartment building with Ms. Ashford on June 2nd, evening time. That suggests a social visit. She gave me a ride home after the school pickup. My daughter was in the car. If you're calling a 7-year-old chaperone a romantic dinner, I don't know what to tell you. Simone's pen kept moving. Mr. Calloway, I'm not making accusations. I'm documenting concerns raised by other employees. Perception matters in a professional environment. What perception? That a black man can't earn an opportunity on merit. That if the CEO treats me like a human being instead of furniture, it must be sexual. The words came out harder than he intended. Simone looked up. That's not what I'm suggesting, isn't it? Silence filled the small office. Simone set down her pen. I'm trying to protect you, Mr. Calloway. If this relationship, whatever its nature, becomes a liability, you're the one who will suffer consequences. Not Ms. Ashford. Terry stood. There is no relationship. There's a project. Results so far are documented and verified by external auditors. If people want to invent stories because they're uncomfortable with a black man having authority, that's their problem. Not mine. He walked out before she could respond. Made it to the stairwell before his hands started shaking. Sat on the steps between floors and called his mother. They're investigating me, Ma. HR. For having a relationship with Elena. Evelyn's voice came through steady. Am I what? Having a relationship with her. No, she's my boss. She's been professional and supportive, and that's it. Then why are you so upset? Because they're going to use this to discredit everything I've done. The project, the results, all of it becomes evidence that I slept my way into an opportunity instead of earning it. Evelyn was quiet for a moment. Baby, listen to me. You've been fighting this fight your whole life. Every accomplishment questioned, every success attributed to luck or quotas or somebody's guilt. And you know what you did every single time? What you kept working, kept proving them wrong, kept standing tall even when they wanted you small. His mother's voice grew firmer. So they're investigating. Let them investigate. Let them document. Let them scrutinize every email and every conversation. Because at the end of it, they'll find what you already know. You earned this, and no amount of investigation changes that. Terry closed his eyes. What if it's not enough? What if I do everything right and they still take it away? Then you hold your head high and you show Mara what dignity looks like. You show her that trying matters more than winning, that standing up matters more than staying safe. He heard Mara's voice in the background, asking who Daddy was talking to. I should let you go, Ma. Terry, one more thing. That woman, Elena, you said she's been supportive. Yeah, more than she needs to be. Maybe think about why that is. Maybe she sees something in you worth supporting. And maybe, just maybe, that scares you more than the investigation does. Evelyn disconnected before he could respond. Terry sat in the stairwell for another 10 minutes, his mother's words circling his thoughts like birds he could not catch. The breakthrough came at 2:37 a.m. on a Wednesday in early August. Terry was alone in the office, had been since midnight, working through a processing bottleneck that had been throttling performance for 3 weeks. Mara was at Evelyn's house. The cleaning crew had passed through hours ago. The building was silent except for the hum of ventilation and the click of his keyboard. The solution appeared suddenly, the way they sometimes do after hours of battering against a wall. Not a dramatic revelation, just a small adjustment to how the algorithm prioritized data packets during peak load. He implemented it, ran the test suite, watched the efficiency metrics climb. 18%, 22%, 26%, 29%. He stared at the screen, ran the tests again to make sure. Same results. Better than target, better than projected, undeniable. His phone showed 3:04 a.m., too late to call anyone, too early to celebrate. He sat in the dark office looking at numbers that proved everything he had claimed was possible. Numbers that could not be explained away or attributed to favoritism or dismissed as affirmative action. He thought about calling Elena, stopped himself, thought about it again, stopped again. Instead, he documented everything. Screenshots, code commits, test results. Created a report so thorough that anyone reviewing it would understand not just what worked, but why it worked and how it could scale. Sent it to the external auditors at 4:17 a.m. with a subject line that simply read, Phase 1 complete. Then he put his head down on his desk and slept for 45 minutes before the sunrise woke him. Elena's email arrived at 7:23 a.m. Saw the auditor report. Preliminary results verified. 29.3% efficiency gain. This is exceptional work. Board presentation scheduled for Friday. Congratulations, Terry. You earned this. He read it 3 times, looking for subtext, for hidden meaning, for some way this could still be taken away. Found none. Just straightforward acknowledgement of results that spoke for themselves. Keisha hugged him when she arrived at 800 and saw the numbers. Marcus shook his hand, the skepticism finally gone from his expression. David literally jumped up and down, too young to hide his excitement. The celebration lasted exactly 18 minutes before Bryce Kendrick appeared in the doorway. Calloway. My office, now. Terry followed him to the executive suite past cubicles where people suddenly found their screens very interesting. Bryce's office was smaller than Elena's, but still premium real estate. 10th floor, window view, furniture that matched. Bryce closed the door, did not invite Terry to sit. Impressive results on your project, thank you. External auditors verified everything. Yes, full documentation is available if you want to review it. Bryce walked to his window, hands behind his back. You know what's interesting? I've been with this company 12 years, worked my way up from regional sales, earned every promotion through consistent performance and building relationships. He turned to face Terry. But you, 4 weeks ago, you were level 2 data processing. Today you're presenting to the board. That's quite a trajectory. Terry kept his voice level. I submitted a proposal through official channels. It was approved through normal review processes. I executed it according to plan. That's how the system is supposed to work. Is it, or is there perhaps another variable we're not discussing? If you have something to say it directly. Bryce smiled cold and sharp, just making sure you understand how this looks. A man in your position suddenly getting opportunities that bypass normal advancement paths. People wonder. Natural human curiosity. There it was again. A man in your position. Code for everything Bryce could not say explicitly without exposing himself. My position is project lead on a successful initiative. That's the only position that matters. Bryce's expression hardened. Careful, Calloway. Pride comes before a fall. And you're standing very high for someone with no safety net. What's that supposed to mean? It means you better hope this success continues. Because if the next phase fails, people will remember how you got here. They'll remember the optics. The questions. He moved closer, voice dropping. They'll remember you spent a lot of personal time with the CEO, and they'll wonder what happens when that personal time becomes a liability instead of an asset. Terry felt his jaw clench, but kept his voice steady. Are we done here? Almost. One more thing. There's been talk about you and Ms. Ashford, about the nature of your relationship. We don't have a relationship. We have a professional working dynamic. Do you? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like something else. And if it becomes something else, you're the one who will pay for it, not her. Us CEOs have lawyers and severance packages. You have a cubicle and $58 in your bank account. Terry's blood went cold. How did Bryce know about his account balance? Bryce saw his reaction and smiled. Due diligence, Calloway. We look out for our investments, make sure they're stable, reliable, not vulnerable to complications. He opened the door. Congratulations on your results. Let's hope they continue. Terry walked out, made it to the elevator, made it down to the parking garage, sat in his car and tried to stop his hands from shaking because Bryce knew about the bank account, knew about the financial pressure, knew exactly where Terry was vulnerable and how to apply leverage. His phone rang. Elena, he answered, saw you leave with Bryce. Everything okay? Fine, just congratulations on the project. Liar. Terry closed his eyes. Can we talk not here, not at the office? Come to my place. Tonight, we need to discuss this away from eyes and ears. Elena, that's exactly what people are saying we're doing. If I come to your apartment, it just confirms every assumption. Then what do you suggest? Meet me at Piedmont Park. 7 o'clock, near the Oak Grove. Silence. Then, okay, 7 o'clock. Terry spent the rest of the day finishing documentation, making sure every decision was recorded, every line of code was commented, every result was verified, building walls of evidence that could withstand scrutiny because scrutiny was coming, was already here. Mara asked him that night while he was making dinner why he looked sad. I'm not sad, baby, just tired. Did your work go good today? Yeah, really good. Then why do you look worried? Because sometimes even when things go good, people try to make them bad. Mara thought about this, her 7-year-old mind processing. Like when Destiny said I only got the art award because Mrs. Chen felt sorry for me. Exactly like that, but you got the award because your butterfly drawing was the best. Everyone knew it. Terry crouched down to her level, and you believe that. Even when Destiny said otherwise? Yeah, because I knew I worked hard. I knew my drawing was good. What Destiny thought didn't change what was true. Terry pulled her into a hug. You're smarter than Daddy, sometimes you know that, Mara giggled. I know. Piedmont Park at 7 p.m. in early August was still hot, the Georgia sun slow to surrender to evening. Terry found Elena sitting on a bench near the Oak Grove wearing jeans and a t-shirt he had never seen her in. Without the corporate armor, she looked younger, more uncertain. He sat beside her, leaving appropriate distance. Thank you for meeting me. What did Bryce say to you? The usual. Implications about how I got the opportunity. Warnings about optics. Reminders that I'm vulnerable in ways you're not. Elena's hands tightened in her lap. He's right about one thing. If this becomes a scandal, you'll suffer more than I will. CEOs have golden parachutes. You have rent and a daughter and $58. Terry looked at her sharply. How do you know about the $58? Bryce mentioned it, which means HR pulled your financial records as part of the investigation. That's legal in background checks for positions of authority. Unfortunately, yes. They sat in silence. Joggers passed. A family with 2 kids throwing a frisbee. Normal people doing normal things while Terry's career hung in balance. Elena spoke first. I need to tell you something, and I need you to just listen until I'm done. Okay, when my mother died, my father buried himself in work. Built the company into something massive because grief was easier to handle when you had quarterly targets. I grew up in boardrooms and nanny apartments. Had everything except what I actually needed. She looked at her hands. I'm 36, no kids, no partner, no family except a father who died 3 years ago and left me a company I never asked for. I've spent 3 years proving I deserve it, proving I'm not just his daughter but his legitimate successor. Where are you going with this? The night you walked through that door, I was preparing for a board meeting, changing because I'd spilled coffee on my blouse. And when you looked at me terrified, apologizing over and over, I saw something I hadn't seen in this company before. Genuine human vulnerability. Elena turned to face him. I read your proposal because it was flagged as high impact, but I championed it because I was tired of watching mediocre ideas get funded while brilliant ones got ignored. And yes, I noticed you were different from the people who usually get opportunities here. But that made me more interested, not less. Terry waited. The drive to Mara's school, the conversations, the way you talk about your daughter like she's the center of your universe. I haven't felt that alive in years. Haven't felt like someone saw me as Elena instead of CEO. She took a breath. So Bryce is wrong about one thing. It's not something that might become personal. It already is, at least for me. Terry felt like the ground had shifted beneath him. Elena, I'm not asking you to feel the same. I'm just being honest about where I am. Because if HR is investigating us anyway, you deserve to know the truth. That this isn't just professional for me anymore. What do you want me to say? Nothing. I want you to think about what you want. Not what's safe, not what's smart. What you actually want. She stood. I'll see you at the board presentation Friday. Until then, take the space you need. She walked away before he could respond. Left him sitting on the bench, watching the sun descend toward the Atlanta skyline, her words circling his thoughts like birds he could not catch. What do you actually want? The question haunted him through Thursday, through Friday morning, through the elevator ride to the executive conference room where the board waited to hear his presentation. Elena sat at the head of the table. Bryce to her left. 8 other executives Terry had never met, all eyes on him as he connected his laptop to the projection system. He had practiced this presentation 17 times, knew every slide, every data point, every answer to every question they might ask. But when he opened his mouth, what came out was different than what he had rehearsed. Before I present the results, I need to address something. There are rumors about how I got this opportunity, about my relationship with Ms. Ashford, about whether my work is legitimate or if I'm here because of favoritism. Elena's eyes widened slightly. Bryce leaned forward. So here's the truth. I submitted a proposal through official channels. It was reviewed by the Innovation Committee, approved by the CEO, executed according to plan. External auditors verified every result. He pulled up the data. 29.3% efficiency gains, $3.1 million in annual savings, achieved through methodology that's documented and reproducible. He looked directly at Bryce. Yes, Ms. Ashford gave me a ride once to pick up my daughter during a family emergency. Yes, she's been supportive and professional. But those facts don't change these numbers. They don't alter the code. They don't invalidate the results. He closed his laptop. I'm a black man in corporate America. I know my work will be questioned in ways others' work won't be. So I made it unquestionable. Every decision documented, every result verified, every claim backed by evidence. The room was silent. If you want to approve phase 2 based on merit, the data supports it. If you want to reject it based on optics, that's your choice. But don't pretend the numbers lie. He sat down, waited. Elena spoke first. Questions for Mr. Calloway. One of the executives raised her hand. The external audit report confirms all claims, yes ma'am, Full documentation is available. And phase 2 projections, conservative estimates show 40% efficiency gains with full implementation. Could be higher depending on infrastructure upgrades. Another executive budget requirements, 400,000 over 6 months. Detailed breakdown is in the appendix. 15 minutes of questions. Technical, financial, operational. Nothing about relationships or optics or implications. Finally, Elena called for a vote. All in favor of approving Phase 2, 8 hands rose. Bryce's stayed down, 1 abstention. Motion passes. Mr. Calloway, congratulations. Proceed with Phase 2. Terry stood, shook hands, accepted congratulations from people who had been strangers 15 minutes ago. Made it to the elevator before his legs started shaking. The doors closed. Elena stepped in beside him. That was brave. That was necessary. Still brave. They rode down in silence. The elevator reached the lobby. The doors opened. Terry stepped out, then turned back. Elena, what I want to know if this is real, if you see me or if you see a project, if this matters or if it's just convenience. Elena held his gaze. Come to dinner. Tomorrow. My place. Just us. No work. No projects. Just 2 people who want to know if there's something worth risking everything for. The elevator doors started to close. Terry caught them. Okay, tomorrow. The doors closed. Terry stood in the lobby watching the numbers climb, knowing he had just agreed to cross a line he could not uncross. Knowing Bryce was probably already planning how to use it. Knowing the investigation would intensify. Knowing everything was about to get harder. But also knowing his mother was right. That trying mattered more than safety. That showing Mara what courage looks like mattered more than protecting himself from consequences. He pulled out his phone. Texted his mother. I think I'm falling for her, Ma. Evelyn's response came back immediately. I know, baby. Question is, what are you going to do about it? Terry looked at the message for a long time, then typed, something brave, something that might cost me everything. His mother's final text made him smile despite everything. Then make sure it's worth it. Elena's apartment occupied the entire 20th floor of a converted warehouse in West Midtown, floor-to-ceiling windows revealing Atlanta's skyline in all directions. Terry stood in the lobby Saturday evening at 6:53 p.m., holding a bottle of wine he had spent 40 minutes selecting at the store, aware that whatever he chose would reveal his inexperience with expensive things. The elevator required a key card. He texted Elena that he had arrived. Come on up. The elevator opened directly into her living space. No hallway, no transition, just suddenly inside her world. Exposed brick walls, modern furniture in grays and whites, art that looked important hanging at precise intervals. The kitchen was open concept stainless steel appliances that probably cost more than his car. Everything was clean and minimal and deliberately curated. Elena appeared from somewhere deeper in the apartment wearing jeans and a sweater, barefoot hair loose around her shoulders instead of pulled back in her usual professional twist. You found it okay. GPS works miracles. She took the wine, glanced at the label, smiled. This is perfect, thank you. Terry did not believe her but appreciated the lie. She opened the bottle with practiced efficiency, poured 2 glasses, handed him one. Dinner's almost ready. I hope you like risotto. It's one of the few things I can make that doesn't come from a delivery app. The admission was disarming. The CEO who commanded boardrooms and managed a $300 million company couldn't cook. It made her human in a way the office never did. They ate at her dining table, which seated 8, but was set for 2 at one end. The risotto was good. Mushroom and parmesan cooked perfectly. They talked about safe things first. The project. Phase 2 timelines. Technical challenges still ahead. But the conversation kept drifting toward personal territory, the way rivers find the sea. Mara asked about you yesterday. Elena's expression softened. What did she ask if you were coming to her art show next week? The school's having one. She has 3 pieces displayed. I'd like to go, if that's appropriate. Terry set down his fork. Elena, I need to understand what we're doing, secrecy, because going to my daughter's art show isn't casual. It's not something colleagues do. It's something that means you're part of our lives. I know. And if you're part of our lives and then you decide you're not Mara's the one who gets hurt, not me, her. Elena met his eyes across the table. I'm not casual about anything, Terry. Especially not this. I wouldn't have asked you here if I wasn't serious about figuring out what this could be. What do you think it could be? Honestly, I don't know. I've never been good at relationships. Work was always easier. Clearer rules. Measurable outcomes. She took a sip of wine. But I know when I'm with you and Mara, I feel like a person instead of a position, and I haven't felt that in a very long time. Terry leaned back in his chair, studying her. You realize what you're asking me to risk. If we do this and it becomes public, I'm the one who'll pay. You said it yourself. CEOs have golden parachutes. I have rent and a daughter and a career that people are already looking for reasons to destroy. I know. And if you want to walk away right now, I understand. I won't hold it against you. We'll go back to being professional colleagues and nothing more. Is that what you want? No. But what I want doesn't matter if the cost is too high for you. Terry thought about Mara, about the apartment with bills on the counter, about 3 years of being invisible followed by 2 months of being hypervisible, about Bryce's threats and HR investigations and anonymous emails documenting every interaction. Then he thought about Elena lifting Mara to see butterflies, about her voice when she talked about her mother, about the way she looked at him like he was someone worth seeing. I don't want to walk away. Elena's breath released like she had been holding it. Okay. So what do? We take it slow. We keep it private until the project is done, and there's no question about why I got the opportunity. We protect Mara above everything else. And after the project, we decide if this is real enough to be worth the cost. Elena reached across the table, took his hand. Her palm was warm against his. That's the most rational approach to falling for someone I've ever heard. Is that what we're doing, falling? I think I already did. Terry's chest tightened. He turned her hand over in his, studying the contrast of their skin tones. Dark and light, all the history those colors carried, all the assumptions people would make. My mother said something this week. She said maybe I'm more scared of this being real than I am of the investigation. Because if it's real, I might lose it, and losing something real is worse than never having it at all. Is she right? Probably. I've spent 4 years protecting myself, protecting Mara, not letting anyone close enough to hurt us when they leave. I'm not going to leave. You can't promise that. No, but I can promise to try to show up, to be honest even when it's hard. Terry stood still, holding her hand, pulled her up from her chair. They stood in her expensive apartment with Atlanta glowing beyond the windows, and he made a choice that felt terrifying and necessary in equal measure. I'm going to kiss you now, and after I do, everything gets more complicated. I know. He kissed her, soft at first, tentative, then deeper when she responded, her hands coming up to his face, her body leaning into his. It felt like falling and flying simultaneously, like stepping off a cliff while simultaneously learning to trust wings he did not know he had. When they broke apart, Elena rested her forehead against his. Definitely more complicated, definitely. They spent the rest of the evening on her couch talking about things that had nothing to do with work. She told him about growing up lonely in a mansion with staff but no family, about her father's funeral where business associates outnumbered people who actually knew him, about inheriting a company she had never wanted but felt obligated to preserve. Terry told her about Sarah, about the grief that came in waves even 4 years later, about learning to be a father while barely being an adult himself, about the fear that he was failing Mara every day in ways he could not see. You're not failing her. She's remarkable, happy, confident. That doesn't happen by accident. I just want her to have more than I did, more stability, more opportunities, more reasons to believe the world is fair. The world isn't fair, but you're teaching her to navigate it anyway. That's the real gift. It was past midnight when Terry finally left, descending in the elevator, with Elena's taste still on his lips and the certainty that he had just made his life infinitely harder settling into his bones. The anonymous email arrived Monday morning at 6:18 a.m. No subject line, just a single sentence in an attachment. Saw Calloway entering Ashford's building Saturday night. Attached security footage timestamp shows he didn't leave until 12:47 a.m. How much longer are we pretending this is professional? The attachment was grainy but unmistakable. Terry walking into Elena's building. The timestamp clear. Anyone who knew where Elena lived would understand the implication immediately. Terry stared at his phone screen, coffee going cold in his hand. Someone was watching, documenting, building a case. His phone rang. Elena, you saw it. Everyone saw it. It went to the entire leadership team. Terry closed his eyes. This is what I was afraid of. I know. Listen, I'm calling an emergency meeting with HR and the board ethics committee. We need to get ahead of this before it becomes a wildfire. By getting ahead of it, you mean what? By being honest, we're two adults who have developed feelings for each other. We've maintained professional boundaries. We've recused ourselves from conflicts of interest. We have nothing to hide. Elena, they're not going to see it that way. They're going to see the black guy who slept his way into a $250,000 project. Then we make them see the truth. The meeting happened at 2:00 p.m. in the executive conference room. 8 people around the table. Simone from HR. 3 board members Terry had never met. Bryce looking like he had won something. Elena at the head of the table. Terry beside her, acutely aware of the optics of their positioning. Simone opened a folder, pulled out printed copies of the email and surveillance photo. Ms. Ashford, Mr. Calloway. These images were distributed this morning. They raise serious questions about conflicts of interest and potential violations of our fraternization policy. Elena's voice was steady. Terry and I have developed a personal relationship. It began after the project was approved and after I recused myself from his performance reviews. External oversight is already in place. There is no conflict of interest. One of the board members, an older white man in an expensive suit, leaned forward. Ms. Ashford, with all due respect, the appearance matters as much as the reality. An employee dating the CEO creates perceptions of favoritism regardless of when the relationship began. The project results are verified by external auditors. The timeline is documented. Terry earned this opportunity on merit. Did he earn it through proximity? The question hung in the air like accusation. Terry felt something snap inside him. Can I speak? Elena glanced at him, nodded. Terry stood. I've been with this company 3 years. Submitted 3 proposals. All ignored until I submitted one that happened to reach Miss Ashford's desk through official channels. That proposal saved this company $3 million annually. That's not proximity, that's competence. He looked at each board member in turn. You want to question the timeline? Fine. Review every email, every meeting, every interaction. You'll find that Miss Ashford maintained professional boundaries until after external oversight was established. And the personal relationship. When did that begin? Terry met the man's eyes. When I realized she sees me as a person instead of a liability. When she showed up for my daughter without being asked. When she treated me with respect I haven't received from anyone else in this building. Bryce cut in, voice dripping with false concern. No one's questioning your competence, Calloway. We're concerned about optics, about how this looks to other employees who might feel their opportunities were limited because they didn't have the same access. Access to what? To working 70-hour weeks, to being investigated by HR twice, to having every success questioned and every interaction scrutinized. Terry's voice rose despite his attempt to control it. I didn't ask for special treatment. I asked for the same chance everyone else gets, to be judged on my work instead of my skin color or who I spend time with outside the office. The room went silent. Simone wrote furiously on her legal pad. The board members exchanged glances Terry could not interpret. Finally, the older board member spoke. Ms. Ashford, I think we need to discuss this in executive session. Mr. Calloway, if you could give us a room. Terry looked at Elena. She nodded. He walked out, sat in the hallway for 47 minutes while his career was debated behind closed doors. Checked his phone compulsively. Refreshed his email. Watched colleagues walk past without making eye contact. Finally, the door opened. Elena emerged first, her expression unreadable. The board members filed out without acknowledging Terry's presence. Simone was last, pausing long enough to hand him a folder. This is the official decision. Review it carefully. She walked away. Terry opened the folder. The memo inside was 3 pages. Legal language about recusal protocols, about external oversight extension, about mandatory quarterly reviews of the project to ensure continued merit-based evaluation. And at the bottom, the key paragraph, the board acknowledges no evidence of professional misconduct or conflict of interest. However, to maintain organizational integrity, Ms. Ashford and Mr. Calloway are required to disclose their relationship status quarterly and submit to enhanced oversight until Mr. Calloway's current project phase is complete. Any future advancement opportunities for Mr. Calloway will be reviewed by external committee to ensure merit-based decision-making. Terry read it twice. It was not a win, but it was not a loss either. It was survival dressed in corporate language. Elena appeared beside him. Walk with me. They took the stairwell instead of the elevator, descended to the parking garage where cameras existed but ears did not. That was brutal. That was necessary. Bryce wanted you fired. 2 board members agreed with him. I had to fight. Terry leaned against the concrete wall. This is my life now. Quarterly reviews, external committees, every opportunity questioned. All because I fell for my boss. Elena moved closer. All because we fell for each other. Don't make this one-sided. It is one-sided. You risk your reputation. I risk everything. Then we make it worth the risk. How? By proving them wrong. By making phase two so successful, they can't dismiss it. By showing Mara that standing up for what you want matters more than playing it safe. Terry looked at her, this woman who held his career in her hands and his heart in her keeping. You make it sound simple. It's not simple. It's terrifying. But so is spending the rest of your life wondering what might have been. The art show happened Thursday evening at Mara's school. Families crowded the gymnasium, children pulling parents toward their displayed work. Mara spotted Terry and ran gap-toothed smile radiant. Daddy, come see, I have 3 pictures up. She grabbed his hand, started pulling, then stopped when she saw Elena standing slightly behind him. Ms. Elena, you came? Of course I came. You invited me. Mara's joy was uncomplicated in the way only 7-year-olds could manage. She dragged them both to her section of the display. 3 drawings. One showed butterflies in a garden more detailed than her previous work. One showed her classroom with everyone's desks labeled. The third showed 3 figures, one tall with dark skin, one small with dark skin, one tall with lighter skin and auburn hair. They stood in front of a house with flowers. That's my family. That's me and Daddy and Ms. Elena. Terry felt his throat tighten. Elena's hand found his squeezed once, then let go before anyone could see. That's beautiful, sweetheart. Mrs. Chen gave me a gold star. She said it shows good observation of different people. Evelyn appeared from somewhere in the crowd, saw Elena and something knowing crossed her face. So you're Ms. Elena. My grandbaby talks about you constantly. Mrs. Evelyn, it's wonderful to meet you. They shook hands. Evelyn held Elena's gaze for a long moment, assessing in the way mothers do. My son, doing okay with everything going on at work. He's managing. Managing means he's stressed but won't admit it. You taking care of him? The question was direct, challenging. Terry started to intervene, but Elena answered first. I'm trying, but he's better at taking care of everyone else than letting anyone take care of him. Evelyn smiled sharp and approving. Smart woman. You'll do. She walked away to talk to Mara's teacher. Elena exhaled. Did I just get evaluated and approved by your mother thoroughly? Should I be terrified? Probably. She's more intimidating than any board member. They spent an hour at the art show, watched Mara show off her work to classmates, met parents who smiled politely, but whose eyes lingered on Elena with questions they did not ask. Terry felt the weight of visibility of being seen in public with a white woman whose presence invited speculation. But he also felt something else. Pride. In Mara's artwork. In Elena's genuine interest in every detail Mara explained. In the way his mother watched them with approval, mixed with concern. Walking to the parking lot afterward, Mara between them holding both their hands, Terry realized the drawing was no longer aspirational. The 3 figures were real. Were them? And that realization was terrifying and wonderful in equal measure. You okay, Elena? Asked it quietly while Mara was distracted by a moth near the streetlight. No, but I'm okay with not being okay. That's very zen. That's very therapy speak from my mother who keeps telling me feelings are meant to be felt, not fixed. Your mother is wise. My mother is terrifying. But yes, also wise. Phase 2 consumed September. The algorithm scaled beautifully, efficiency gains holding steady at 42% as they expanded to additional departments. Marcus had become a genuine ally, his skepticism transformed into advocacy. Keisha was already being recruited by other teams who saw her work on Terry's project. David had gained confidence, was writing documentation that other developers called exemplary. The quarterly review happened on a Tuesday. External auditors, new board members Terry had never met. Simone from HR taking notes. Elena recused herself entirely, did not attend. Terry presented alone, walked them through methodology, showed them results, answered questions for 90 minutes while they probed every decision and examined every metric. At the end, the lead auditor closed his laptop. Mr. Calloway, I've reviewed 16 major projects this year. This is the most thoroughly documented and successfully executed initiative I've seen. Your work is exemplary. The recommendation to the board was unequivocal. Continue funding. Expand scope. Promote Terry to Director of Data Innovation with corresponding salary increase. Terry read the decision memo in his cubicle at 4:47 p.m. Director, salary $127,000, more than double his current compensation. Enough to afford the butterfly field trip without thinking. Enough to consider houses instead of apartments. Enough to stop counting pennies. He called his mother first. Baby, I'm so proud of you. Thanks, Ma. You crying? Maybe a little. Good. Means you know how hard you worked for this. Did I earn it, Ma? Or did I just get lucky with who noticed Evelyn's voice was firm? Luck is what you call it when preparation meets opportunity. You prepared for 3 years, the opportunity came. You executed flawlessly. That's not luck. That's earned, Terry wiped his eyes. They're still going to say Elena gave it to me. Let them. You know the truth. I know the truth. Mara knows the truth. The auditors confirmed it. That's what matters. He called Elena next. Saw the decision. Congratulations, Director Balloway. Couldn't have done it without you. Yes, you could have. You did do it. I just made sure someone was paying attention. Elena, I need to ask you something. Go ahead. If this ends badly between us, can I keep the promotion? Her laugh was unexpected. The promotion is yours regardless, but I don't plan on this ending badly. How can you be sure I can't? But I can choose to believe it's worth trying anyway. That night, Terry took Mara for ice cream, told her about the promotion while they sat outside the shop, moths circling the streetlight above them. Does this mean we can get the house with the garden, maybe, baby? Daddy needs to save up first. But yes, eventually we can look. And Mrs. Elena can help us pick flowers for the butterflies if she wants to. Mara took a careful lick of her chocolate cone. I think she wants to, Daddy. She looks at you the way you look at her, like you're both happy and scared at the same time. When did you get so smart? I've always been smart. You just noticed now. Terry pulled her close, kissed the top of her head. I love you, baby girl. Love you too, Daddy, even when you're being silly about Miss Elena. The promotion took effect immediately. By Wednesday afternoon, Terry was moving boxes into his new office, actual walls, actual door window overlooking the Atlanta skyline. He was labeling files when Bryce appeared in the doorway. You settling in, Terry straightened, wary. Getting there. Bryce stepped inside, hands in pockets. The posture was different, less aggressive, almost uncertain. I owe you an apology. Terry set down the file folder. For what specifically? For assuming you took shortcuts. For questioning your relationship with Elena instead of examining your results. For trying to make you fail to prove a point that was wrong. The admission hung between them. Bryce pulled something from his pocket, a printed copy of the external audit report. My daughter's in high school, taking AP statistics. I showed her this report, explained the project. She asked why I kept talking about your personal life instead of your efficiency gains. He set the report on Terry's desk. I didn't have a good answer. So I'm giving you one now. Your work is exceptional. The promotion is earned. I was wrong. Bryce extended his hand. Terry studied it for a long moment, then shook. Thank you. After Bryce left, Terry stood at his new window, watching Atlanta spread below. Victory felt quieter than expected. Less like triumph, more like permission to finally stop proving himself. Elena knocked on his door frame at 5:30. Settling in, still surreal, she stepped inside, closed the door. I want to take you and Mara somewhere this weekend. Piedmont Botanical Gardens. Butterfly exhibit. Terry's chest tightened. Elena, that's the field trip she wanted. I know. So instead of a field trip with strangers, it's Saturday with us. Saturday arrived warm and clear. Terry picked up Elena at her building at 9:00 a.m., Mara bouncing in the back seat with excitement that made words pour out in streams. Did you know monarchs migrate 3,000 miles and they live in 4 different generations? And the 4th generation lives longer so they can make the journey south. I didn't know that, sweetheart. Mrs. Chen taught us. And also they drink nectar through a proboscis, which is like a straw built into their mouth. The botanical gardens were crowded with families, children running ahead while parents followed with strollers and water bottles. The butterfly exhibit was housed in a greenhouse, humid and warm, filled with flowers and feeding stations. Mara ran from display to display, pointing out different species, reading the information placards in her careful second-grade voice. Terry and Elena followed, their hands occasionally brushing but not quite holding because public spaces still required caution. Look, a painted lady. Mara stood perfectly still while a butterfly landed on her outstretched hand, orange and black wings opening and closing in slow rhythm. Her face was pure wonder. Terry pulled out his phone, took a photo. Elena moved beside him, and he took another. The 3 of them together with the butterfly exhibit behind them. Evidence of this moment, this choice, this family that looked nothing like what anyone expected but felt exactly right. After the butterflies, they walked the gardens, past roses and magnolias and plants whose names Terry did not know. Mara ran ahead to examine an interesting rock while Terry and Elena sat on a bench in the shade. This is what I want. Elena turned to look at him. What? This, Saturdays in gardens, Mara showing us butterflies, being able to kiss you without wondering who's watching. We can have that, can we? Or is this just borrowed time before reality catches up? Elena took his hand, no longer caring about optics. Reality is what we make it. Yes, people will judge. Yes, it'll be hard. But hard doesn't mean impossible. You sound very sure. I'm sure about you. About Mara. About wanting to be part of something that matters more than quarterly earnings and board presentations. Terry squeezed her hand. My lease is up next month. I've been looking at houses. 3 bedrooms. Yard big enough for a garden. That sounds perfect. Elena's voice was careful. Would there be room for someone else, eventually? Not now, but someday. Someday. Yeah, someday there'd be room. Mara ran back announcing she had found 3 interesting rocks that definitely needed to come home. They walked back to the car with Mara between them, holding both their hands, chattering about which flowers they should plant to attract monarchs. In the car heading home, Mara fell asleep against Elena's shoulder. Terry watched them in the rearview mirror, his daughter and the woman he was falling for. The future he had stopped letting himself imagine becoming real in small increments. You're staring, just noticing. Noticing what? That the wrong door led to exactly the right place. Elena smiled, careful not to wake Mara. Sometimes the universe knows what we need before we do. They drove through Atlanta with afternoon sun painting everything gold. Terry thought about Monday, about his new office, about Phase 3 planning that would start next week, about quarterly reviews and external audits, and all the ways his success would continue to be questioned. But he also thought about this moment, about Mara sleeping peacefully, about Elena's hand resting gently on his daughter's head, about gardens they would plant and butterflies they would watch, and mornings he would wake up believing good things were possible. Not someday, not eventually, now. The universe had known exactly what he needed, had sent him through the wrong door to find it. And for the first time in 4 years, Terry Calloway stopped being afraid of what he might lose and started believing in what he had found.